So, a few years ago, Oregon became the first state in the country to approve a measure decriminalizing the possession of small amounts of illicit drugs, hard drugs. Now the state is recriminalizing them. The measure made drug possession punishable by a ticket and a maximum fine of $100. But opioid deaths in Oregon tripled between 2019 and 2022, with many of the deaths attributed to the rise in fentanyl use, leaving state officials and authorities scrambling to find a solution. So joining me now to talk a little bit more about this situation in Oregon is Meira Gebel. She's a reporter for Axios Portland. Thanks for joining us. So this was like a grand experiment. The whole country was watching, right? Possession of small amounts of hard drugs. You would get a ticket, a referral, I think, to maybe a treatment center. Can you sort of remind us of what happened in 2020 and what went wrong?
Yeah, so voters approved a ballot measure in 2020 that decriminalized the possession of small amounts of illicit drugs like fentanyl, meth, and heroin. And like you said, overdose rates they skyrocketed in the state, and open air drug use became really prominent on the streets in cities across Oregon and not just Portland. So it became a public, issue where the public was putting a lot of pressure on lawmakers to figure out if Measure 110, which was the ballot measure that voters passed, was actually working the way it was intended.
And so now that has been recriminalized, what does that look like? What does this new law look like?
Yeah, so it kind of looks similar to Measure 110, except that law enforcement now can charge somebody with a misdemeanor that is punishable by up to 180 days in jail if probation is revoked by a judge. But the new law that Governor Tina Kotek just signed creates these optional deflection programs where police can refer somebody who has been cited with possession to treatment. And if they complete treatment, then their case can be dropped.
So as I understand it, part of the challenge for the decriminalization experiment is that was also supposed to be paired with funding for drug rehab and other support systems. It sounds like this new criminalization also factors that in. But is that funding there? Is that additional support there?
So the original ballot measure, Measure 110, allocated cannabis tax revenue to create more treatment centers and facilities. The bill that our governor just passed also includes $200 million for addiction-related services like treatment facilities, court programs, and access to medication-assisted therapies in jails like buprenorphine. So it is very similar, but now we kind of have that extra $200 million. But the thing is Oregon is currently facing a chronic treatment bed shortage. There is not a lot of treatment beds for the people who have addiction issues and actually want to get treatment. They face long wait lists and strict eligibility requirements.
All right. Well, Meira, we're going to be watching Oregon closely to see what happens now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.